there is this trend that has been going on at the workplace where in the recent past, employees are committing suicide in the workplace. Recently, we had a case of a boss who just was found dead in their office. Uh, People are, and the cases are just overwhelming. But there's a particular case that really touched my heart. There's, I have a colleague of mine. We were the same cohort. We were employed the same time, the 2012 cohort. We were deployed in the same office and we worked together for a very long time. But after some time, we noticed after like working for 2-3 months, we noticed some I don't want to say weird behaviors, but we noticed some two behaviors in my colleague, especially when we had money, like for example, we had gone for a trip and we have money or it's end month, we just disappear for a whole month or 2 weeks, do not know where he is, and then he would just show up and just like nothing happened until again we get money and then again he disappears. So it became an issue to the HR and they wanted to know what could be happening to my colleague. And because now the father was afraid that he might lose employment, he told the HR that my colleague is suffering from a mental illness, that sometimes, okay, I know it was, I don't want to say it was a cover up, but it was like a cover up. With the HR in coordination with the father, they started to look for a facility and they booked him in. So it became a trend. Every time he would disappear, he would be booked in the mental facility, Mathare, stay there, be discharged, come back to work. And it went on for a very long time. And then it came a point now I went for a transfer and we lost touch. And then like after 5 years, I see my colleague in the obituaries that he had died and I was shocked. So on trying to establish what would have caused my colleague's death, I was told that he went into so much debt because of drinking and the debtors were pursuing him. And so he just walked to a building, 17th floor, threw himself. That's how he died. So that I've never healed from that death because this was a young man, very young. In fact, he was younger than me by like 7 years. No family, no wife, no child, a bright future in front of him. And then he just committed suicide. And this is just one of the many cases that are there in the workplace. And I wanted us to have a conversation around suicide. I don't know if you have had any cases yourself.
First of all, that is very sad. I feel sad already now imagining that, because also recently we had a very prominent mental health champion even in the government. Also, she threw herself off a building in town. So it is something that has been happening. And that is just to tell you how mental health issues do not discriminate. You're saying it might have been a cover-up, but it's actually the cause. Most of the times, the behaviors that people have that we may find weird or off are usually actually a symptom that there's something wrong. So it means that we need to pay attention.
So for somebody just to walk onto the 17th floor of a building and then just decide, I'm done. Because, okay, personally, I've never tried attempting suicide, but the pain, the agony, I don't know. I even have goosebumps talking about this story. What really, I don't know. What was going on inside their mind, and maybe how can we help the workforce when it comes to suicide thoughts, suicide issues, because now it's becoming a trend. Like every other month, every other week, you'll hear a case, and not just in Kenya but worldwide.
Global. Yeah. Ideally, you're looking at it, he went to a building and jumped. That's not
Yes.
the issue. That's the end. Like
Oh,
that,
it's
that,
like
that
it
is
started.
like, yeah, that is just the end, which is when you can imagine now the way you're saying, imagine the pain and everything, and someone feels like that's the best option. You can imagine what is going on behind the scenes. So ideally, you find we have a lot of issues at home, in the workplace, right, that are piling up, and someone doesn't get the right help. We also have certain, the way you've mentioned, there are certain mental health conditions that have the symptom of suicidal ideation. Let's get this straight. A lot of people could have suicidal ideations, like just, oh yeah, if I wasn't here, it would be nice. But now, not everybody actualizes it. So you'll find a lot of people have been through that, like just feeling, by the way, if I wasn't here, I wouldn't be a burden. But then now, even statistically, a lot more men have, we call them successful, not because it's something nice, but they actualize the suicide because they use more lethal ways of doing it, whereas women have a lot more attempted, but it never works all the way, maybe because they use other means. But this is something that is there. So even whether it is in the workplace or at home, suicide is such an alarming thing. We say, even just the time that you give that story, we say every 40 seconds someone dies from suicide. Every 40 seconds, because we lose around 700,000 people every year from suicide. So it is that serious. Like there are people who just feel like they have come to the end. So of course, going back, all these mental health illnesses, first of all, they stem either from genetics, if you have been predisposed, like your family, your family has issues with alcoholism, mental illness. That one uncle back in the village, just know that you're predisposed, like it could happen to you. The other thing is environmental factors. So childhood experiences that were traumatic, abuse, neglect, you saw your mother being beaten up, those can cause mental health issues. And then now the experiences are day to day. So like the divorces, relationship issues, workplace issues, all these things. So you can imagine someone having all three, it is even worse. So there is so much likelihood of you having mental health issues. And now these issues, if left untreated, they now get into mental illnesses. We have different mental illnesses, from mood disorders, we have personality disorders. Like this thing affects your mood in terms of your mood keeps shifting. Personalities is in terms of how you are as a person. So when we have those ones now, especially the mood disorders, they usually now get to a point where, if not treated, if I have an episode, say a depressive episode, then if I don't take care of it, it will lead me to a point where now I feel like I don't want to be here. I am a burden, and it would be better if I go. Or people who feel like there is no other solution. So what we tell people who do this is to always know that there's always a solution. It might not look like it, but there are other solutions. At least you try them first, and most likely they will work. Seeking help, talking to someone, of course, going to a hospital, things like that. And the unfortunate bit is that mental illnesses are chronic. You don't really heal, just manage them.
You manage them.
So just the same way you can imagine, me personally, our family, I can be very big. I can just be very, in terms of weight. So because I know that, I always work out, I always eat healthy. Because if I don't, I will. So the same way you are predisposed to a mental health issue, you're supposed to be taking care of yourself every day. journal gratitude, like you mentioned, talking to people, socializing, having fun, so that you don't get to points where now you go through to an episode, and then that episode, if left untreated, then it can get you there. So there's a lot of layers to suicide. It's not just
Yeah,
someone
because
woke up.
we were imagining. I've told you this is a guy that didn't have a family, didn't have a wife, a child. Mwenye utasema maybe the wife was stressing them or the children. He was in huge debts, and these debts occurred because he was taking loans from everywhere just to go and drink. And I was like, wow, people can actually take loans to go and drink.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
an
people
addiction.
take loans to go for holidays and all that, to entertain women, meaning but to drink. I
Because
take
they
like
can't do
200,000
without
just to
it.
drink.
Yeah, it happens. Because I can't do without it. That's how you describe addiction. When you can't do without the alcohol. You see, if you drink, maybe you drink occasionally, weekends. But this person really, literally can't live without it. So they go to all means. And then also, even with addiction, I say addiction is not the problem. The alcohol is not the problem. What is this that is making them feel like this is the only solution? And that is where now I go back to even childhood and everything. So you might feel like their life currently may not sound like it has a lot of stressors, but they may be carrying a lot of wounds with them that still haunt them, that still affect them. Because ideally mental conditions, if at all they had one, a lot of them start manifesting in teenagehood, early adulthood. So now they carry them with them. If left untreated, now they become even worse. So same with addiction. You're having fun. Yeah, you drink occasionally. Then inafika to a point where now you use it to cope, or you use it to numb your pain. So then you see everything just accumulates, and then it got us here. So the ideal of what to have done is, of course, now the time that they notice he has a problem early on, to be supportive, to help. Also, there's something that you mentioned that I wanted to correct you on. We don't say commit suicide. We say died by suicide.
Oh, it's not commit.
Committing is like you're committing an offense. So we say even the words we use for people, so that someone doesn't feel like, nikiambia mtu. You see, even we decriminalized suicide last year. We have really been fighting for that. And a lot of people made fun of that. Oh, now the government doesn't care whether you kill yourself or not. But the aim was for people to now come out when they have those thoughts, right? If I feel hopeless, I can be able to say it without worrying that nitashikwa nipelekwe prison. Because actually I used to work in a prison, and for youths, and someone is brought in because they try to kill themselves. Like, how is that helping them? Supposed to get help. So
You're taken to
prison
because you tried to kill yourself.
Yes. Yeah, because it used to be
Or
a
it's an
crime.
offense.
Yeah, that's why people say commit.
Oh.
You say you commit a crime, so that's why people said commit suicide. But now we're saying you died by, like,
You died
just
by
the way you
suicide.
died by accident, an illness. Because, like I mentioned, suicide is not the problem; it's a symptom of an illness.
It's a symptom.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
We have learned, unlearned, we have relearned. And maybe as we finish, what are your parting shots about the whole issue of mental health and the workplace?
You mentioned that as colleagues, you started to see the quote-unquote weird behavior, or the behavior that wasn't what he was used to. So every time you see a colleague going through something, you can tell. You usually can tell by the changes.
Actually, what I didn't tell you is that when he didn't have money kabisa,
Yeah.
he would even go and be at out just to get that extra. Even after work in the evening, he would go and be at out. So you are like, somebody's calling you, ukiangalia, it's my colleague.
Yeah, so you wonder where they take their money. So ideally, when you notice these things, we are supposed to actually offer help to them. So the first thing usually is to ask someone I have noticed this and this, what is happening? So maybe you hear someone is saying, oh, Mimi, I don't want to be here, or I'd rather off be dead, or they were not social, now they are going out and gallivanting and having fun. Every time someone changes, there's usually something there. If maybe like I was now social and talkative, now I'm isolating. If maybe I was performing well, now I am not. If I used to dress nicely, now I don't care about how I look. Every time you notice those changes in people, ask them what is happening.
But
And
now-
not to judge. We know people. You listen and you don't judge. You ask to hear what is happening. The other point is now to encourage action. Like if they tell you what is happening, sometimes you can help them, sometimes you can't. So you encourage action. Maybe they could go to the HR. If they can't, they can, you know, get help outside of the workplace. So at least there's something that is happening. And then the other one is you follow up. I hear a lot of people, someone tells me, oh, I gave someone your contact, they wanted a therapist, but that person never comes. So do you follow up? Because ideally when someone is in the pits, lows, they can't really do a lot of things for themselves. So sometimes you have to offer that support. So it's very important for us also to support each other so that we don't get there.
Supposing somebody wants to book a session with you, where can they find you?
I mentioned that my social pages are Therapist Marianne. If you find Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere, you can find me there, and I am very responsive, so I will be able to answer your DM. And also I have a website, Therapy by Marianne, as well. Like I mentioned, I have a book, so you can book me for different things, therapy, corporate training. You can buy my book, you can come to our events. But if you follow me on socials, you will find the updates at Therapist Marianne, or also Therapy by Marianne, which is my business page. Thank you.
Karibu. So viewers, that is it for today. Until next time, kwaherini.